Hey friends, thanks for joining me. It is the time of year to do the top 10s. I've got 4 videos lined up for you. Today's video is going to focus on the top 10 purchases of the year for me. Not necessarily released this year, but that I discovered or purchased this year. And among the fragrances that I purchased in the year, I think are the top. Before we actually dive into my favorite purchases of the year, I'd love to hear from you. What is your favorite fragrance purchase of the year? And if you didn't purchase fragrances and you just tried some or sniffed some at a counter, what stands out to you? What is your favorite from the year? Okay, so drop that down in the comments for us and we'll get into my list with no further ado. Of the fragrances that I'm going to share with you, there are two that I have raved about quite a bit in recent videos. So if you caught those videos, you may want to skip out on the end. I will save those for the end of the video. Before I jump in, I do have just one additional disclaimer that I think is really important to share for this lineup, and that's that I purchased all of these with my own money. None of these were sent to me in PR. There were some absolute gems that I received in PR this year, and I'm grateful for that. And you'll see them in some other videos. But I felt like this is the video where I'm so glad that I spent my money on these. And so, true to that, I will kick off with a fragrance that gets sold out quite often because I think it is super duper crowd pleasing and a lot of people really like it. It is from Sospiro and this is Dolce Melodia. The reason that this is in my top 10 best purchases of the year is because this is a fragrance that is close to happy divinity for me. When I sniff this fragrance, I my face turns into just this happy, like nostalgic curl. It's like it's one of these like, oh, it is largely fruity and citrus and musky fragrance and has some florals and woody notes too. But it is so happy and uplifting. It makes me feel like I'm living my best life when I sniff this, like I'm about to go out and have one of the best days of my life. It is bright, it's inspiring in the way that it's just like the happiness of it inspires me to just feel good. I feel good when I sniff this fragrance. I feel good when I wear it. There are citrus notes. I think there's orange and maybe mandarin and notes in the orangey direction. And I love that that sort of citrus is paired with a beautiful, sweet, fresh, clean pear note, but it does have a sweetness to it. So it's not sort of an underripened pear. It's a pear that is ripe and ready for that juicy first bite. The fragrance also has a good deal of vanilla and a lovely, clean, I think it's white musk that is in the fragrance. And so the vanilla and the musk give this fragrance some depth, some complexity, make it really interesting to sit sort of underneath. It's like a foundation, if you will, for the citrus and the pear notes to play on top. I believe there's some other florals. I want to say there's rose and maybe some other white florals and then some woodiness in the base. But by and large, a fruity, sweet, uplifting, just super duper happy, vanillic, musky fragrance as well. And it's sold out often for a good reason. It's a really, really crowd pleasing scent. If you are not familiar with musks or you're not into musk, you may not enjoy this. So, buyer beware if you decide to try this. By the way, I will link all of these fragrances down in the description box if I can find them for purchase. And if I can't, I'll try to figure out where you can get a decant if you want to try that. So, Dolce Melodia, one of my top picks. I also want to mention that this is a nicely performing and fairly long lasting fragrance as well. The one complaint, and it's minor, that I have about this is that the bottle has a fuzzy, like velvety texture. I would much have preferred just a solid mustardy orange or yellowy, rather, bottle. Like that would have been better for me. I don't love handling velvet in fragrance. I definitely don't like velvet packaging for my makeup or hair products or anything like that. I like clean surfaces that I can clean off if they get grody. This one has stayed nice and fresh and clean, so we are good to go, but that is my one complaint. Let's go on. One of the most surprising beauties of the year that I purchased, I believe I think I bought this blindly. I don't think I tested this first. And I was shocked at just how much I enjoyed it immediately. It's from the Armani Privé line. This is Musk Shamal. I really enjoy the odd caps on these bottles. They remind me of the sculpture in Chicago that's known as the Bean. It's called Cloud Gate, and I'll put a picture up here. So every time I look at the cap, it reminds me of that structure. And so this is a very clean, classy, elegant musk fragrance, and the keynote is musk. And I believe there are some kind of aldehydes. There's also something in the fragrance that reminds me very much of this like creamy facet that's also in Juliet Has a Gun, Ode to Dullness. That fragrance and this one have something like smooth and almost silky, silky, creamy, silky in them that come across really elegant and classy in terms of the texture, the experience that your nose has in smelling this fragrance. It's so lovely. It's so lovely. Definitely clean, definitely unisex, one that I think would carry nicely in heat. It's really interesting the description for this fragrance. It says that Musk Shamal is an ode to the contrast of oriental landscapes, the harsh desert winds blowing over the sand dunes, and it's sharp musk infused with Turkish rose. I can't say I pick up any rose in this fragrance specifically. For me, this is a clean, cloud like musk with this very, very elegant five-star hotel soapiness to it. And not soap like you would scrub your body with. It's soap that is like some other kind of interesting spa experience, a very expensive smelling soap. This fragrance smells expensive. It smells expensive. And it's got a really nice projection, not way out into the room, but you get a nice scent bubble and it has pretty decent longevity. The reason that I talked about the description being interesting is because I don't associate this with dry environments. Like it talks about winds blowing over sand dunes in a desert. No, I really associate this with tropical evenings. And so if you think about going out on vacation and you are in a tropical, humid environment, you shower and you're getting ready to go out on the resort and go to dinner or go out into town into some swanky restaurant, and you have your finest clothing on, male or female, does not matter, and you want to smell clean and fresh and elegant and like you have your entire life together. This would be one that I would pick. So I associate it with humid tropical environments. I don't associate it with dry, arid situations. So in that sense, it's interesting that that's the description, but this is such a beautiful surprise. And also to be like a soapy, musky fragrance has this beautiful depth to it. I don't know if there's sandalwood in the fragrance or there's some other kind of woody base, and it comes across just so lovely. Adds some depth to this. And like I said, it has some other sort of silky, creamy facet that I can't put my finger on or find in the note structure anywhere, but definitely worth a sniff if you are into musk and if you are into clean smelling fragrances that are elevated. This isn't just your regular, everyday, soapy, laundry esque, anything like that. Essential oil smelling fragrance. This is next level elegance here. Musk Schmal. I am a big fan of the house of Veronique Gabai, and I got more into the house this year and purchased a number of fragrances and wanted to talk about one of them in this video. All of the bottles look like this, so it doesn't really matter which of the bottles I show you, although I do have the actual bottle in hand that I'm going to talk about. This is Vert Desir. And the reason that I chose this one over the others, although I love many from the line, is that this one has this unique flair to it that I have only smelled maybe in another fragrance or two. And that's that it's a freshie, like a fresh summertime fragrance featuring the notes of lemon and mint. There's absinthe and cedarwood that are featured as keynotes as well. So those four, but the lemon and the mint in particular is the star of the show here. And I feel like those other notes are supporting actors in a cast that will allow the mint in Vert Desir to win the Oscar. This is a fresh summertime fragrance that is very invigorating, refreshing. It smells a little bit like mint julep without maybe the sweet facets of that drink. And there's an herbal nature to this, I believe, from the absinthe. And let me tell you about notes this year, a note that I have maybe rediscovered and fallen in love with in a different way than I enjoyed it in previous years, and that is the note of cedar in any form or fashion. I love the crisp, linear, clean nature of a cedar note in a fragrance and what it does for uplifting the fragrance, creating like an architecture to it where there are some clean lines. And I don't know how else to describe that. Think about like crisp suits. You know that it's a crisp, fresh, nicely pressed suit because the lines are a little bit rigid and just clean and structured. And I feel like this is a nicely structured citrus mint fragrance. And it's great. These fragrances are made of mostly natural ingredients. And as such, this is not a fragrance that lasts forever. However, in the summertime, when it's super hot, you probably don't want your fragrance to go well into the evening hours. You may want it to wear down so that you don't get sick of smelling it in the heat. And so it's about a 4 to 6 hour wear on this fragrance, give or take, depending on the humidity in your area, your skin chemistry, all of the above, how much activity you have going on for the day. But it is just lovely and uplifting. The other fragrance that's somewhat similar is Virgin Mint from Carolina Herrera, also a gorgeous fragrance, like a cousin to this, and that one is even stronger on the mint. The mint here is a little bit more subtle, a little less in your face, a little bit more understated, and yet the star of the show. So, super duper lovely fragrance. Of all of the Veronique Gabai fragrances that I purchased this year, this one is maybe the most stunning in its uniqueness and will set you apart from the crowd in terms of how you smell. Lovely. I'm going to go next to a fragrance that I did not expect to enjoy. When I tested this, I was taken aback by how quickly and deeply I fell in love with this one. And I had to hunt it down because it wasn't available on discount in the States. And I ain't paying full price for this brand or any brand. Or would I? Have I paid full price this year? No, I've gotten, have I? Maybe one or two. And if I have, I don't remember. Y'all, I am all about a discount code or a sale. So, anywho, from fragrance, from fragrance to bois, fragrance to bois, voyage à Paris, voyage à Paris, or for us Americans, voyage à Paris. Anyway, I'm being silly. The fragrance is divine. This is so good and it settles so beautifully on me and meshes in such a wonderful way with my skin chemistry. This fragrance is characterized mostly by some booziness from a rum note. There's a strand of honey, like a nice little weaving of honey throughout the entire fragrance, and vanilla and an oak base and a little bit of oud. I will also say that there are some florals in the fragrance as well, but to me, the star players here are this deep vanilla that is thick and just glorious in the fragrance, accompanied by a little bit of booziness. The booze is slight, and I think you have to know it's there to sort of pick it up. Otherwise, I would not have said that this has a booze note. I would say it was woody and vanillic and a little bit floral. But if you know to, and a little sweet from the honey, if you know to smell for the rum, then you get the boozy aspect of it. As it continues to dry down, it does this thing where it sort of blossoms and develops on your skin into this really magnificent, heavily vanillic and woody fragrance with oud sort of around the edges of it. And it is just such a nicely done fragrance, so smooth, lots of sort of roundness. It's a very robust fragrance. It is a fragrance that will hug you as much as you want to hug it. It's got nice projection. It has really, really good longevity. And it's definitely a fragrance that I would say is probably better for cooler or colder weather. Something about this fragrance reminds me of Altair from Parfums de Marly, perhaps without some of the like spicy aspects that are in that fragrance. I consider Altair to be primarily a vanilla fragrance with some other notes, including some spices. But the way that the vanilla shows up in that fragrance, if you've tried that, is similar to how it is in here. And this departs from Altair with the woody aspects, the really delicate, nicely surrounding oud. It's almost like a wraparound to the fragrance in a very gentle way. The honey adds some sweetness. It's super duper good. I've never regret when I have reached for this. I've never regretted it. I've worn this to sleep. I've worn this all day. I've worn it, later in the day when another fragrance fades off. It's one that I just think is fabulous. You have to like stronger, deeper, more powerful fragrances. Although I will say there's nothing sort of overwhelming or screechy about this. This never imposes on anyone in the room, presuming, friends, that you spray this with some sort of discretion. I mean, you don't want to go 20 and 30 sprays on a bottle like this. You can do 5 or 6 and have a really nice scent presence in the room without assaulting anyone the way some other fragrances do if you overspray them. So that is Voyage à Paris or Voyage à Paris for the rest of us. All right, fantastic. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you, I had to go all the way to Harrods. I didn't actually physically go there. I went to the website and they sent this to me after I paid for it. It wasn't free. I made that sound like they just gifted it to me. I paid for it. And I forget, I bought, oh, I know what else I bought. And you'll see it in another video. See then. I think I bought the two of them at the same time. And so that made it worth the shipping because I got the nice discount compared to what this was going for in the States. Gosh, that was a long-winded way of saying I got a better deal going to Harrods than shopping through US retail sites that weren't doing any discounts at the time. Moving along, and then friends, perfection. Perfection, 10 out of 10 for me in one single solitary bottle. If a fragrance can achieve that level of praise, this one does. And you might be surprised because it's actually a rather subtle scent, but it does no wrong. Like it has a halo around it, it has some angel wings, and it is just beautiful, like a cherub. A cherub at a cherub? Yeah, a cherub at Valentine's Day. This is Musk MOSCHUS from Rania J. Let me pause to say that I actually, because I love this fragrance so dang much, I actually went and purchased a bunch of samples from the Rania J line. And I pretty much hated the rest of them. I did not like them. I found them well, I probably tried maybe 3 or 4. They were offensive to me, like, to the point where my husband asked me to stop sampling them near him because the scent that was carrying over to him was so, like, bombastically disgusting. So, that said, this is the sweetheart of the house for me, for my taste. It didn't make my top musk fragrance when I did the, top fragrance by note, that video, Note in Accord. I chose something else, but nonetheless, this is one of the most beautiful musk fragrances in my collection. It is a soft, like almost pillowy, cloud like think of a cotton ball and how squishy it is and how soft it feels. Think of a cashmere sweater, the fuzziness of a cashmere sweater, especially when you first take a nice cashmere sweater out of the bag that it comes in. I said that because I order all of my stuff online. I suppose if you buy it in store, you can feel it on the rack or on the shelf and it doesn't come out of a bag. But I have purchased my cashmere sweaters online. So when I open the bag and I touch that beautiful textile, the fabric, gosh, if it's a nice sweater, there's something so wonderful about the, like, cushiness and comforting nature of that feeling. This fragrance captures that feeling in a bottle through the musk and the vanilla and this sort of airiness while still feeling comforting and cocooning. And it has a little bit of citrus. It has, I believe, are there florals? I have to go check. Give me one second. Okay, I'm not crazy. It does have an iris note and some other things going on. But what comes across to me, ever so slight floral in the background, a little light citrus, and this soft vanilla and muskiness. And it says cashmerean or cashmerean, however you pronounce that, is a note in the fragrance as well. But there's just like this delicateness about this that feels like your best skin scent ever. Ever. Have you ever bathed yourself in a warm, cozy shower gel? You came out and maybe put your favorite lotion on that's subtle and you sniff yourself and you go, I smell so good. Just like a natural you smell. Boom. This is gorgeous. When I run out of this, I'm definitely purchasing the big bottle again. I won't spend a lot of time on the next fragrance because the description is fairly simple and I've talked about it ad nauseum in some of the videos, probably in the springtime more than anything. Bond number 9 Highline. So this was a new purchase for me and one of my favorites because it's very nostalgic for me. I purchased a number of really fantastic Bond number 9 fragrances this year, including New York Flowers, New York Gardenia. Those are outstanding. This one does something to the insides of me. Like it makes me feel like a young woman, like in my that sounded a little like weird. Sorry, I didn't mean for that to come across X-rated if it did. It makes me feel like I am a teenager hanging out with my friends, walking through New York City, living my very best life. Highline, if you're not familiar, is named after a raised railroad that is open air in New York that is no longer in service and has been turned into a walkway. Like, some sidewalks have been put up there with it, and there are gardens there. And it's a beautiful little walk, a little oasis in the craziness of the concrete jungle of New York. And it just reminds me of being youthful in the summertime in New York, enjoying that sort of peacefulness of being on, well, excuse me. I didn't get on the High Line until I was in my 30s. However, the feeling is still the same. And walking through like Central Park in New York and all of that. So, what does it smell like? It smells like grass, and it's like freshly cut grass, and it smells like vibrant, fresh spring florals. Like, think about lilies and perhaps orchids and just a bouquet of fresh florals. It's really quite lovely. Fresh, happy, clean, yes, vibrant. It gives me all the spring and summer vibes. Some people find this fragrance screechy, so I'll just share that. I don't think there's anything screechy about it myself. I happen to enjoy this. This is beastly. This projects super far and it lasts a very long time. I think there's also a little bit of muskiness, perhaps. I believe, and some woodiness in the fragrance, but the primary players are a fresh, clean grass with some bright, happy spring. Think about like Easter florals and the way that those smell, almost like soapy, clean florals, and it's lovely. I really, really enjoy Highline. The one I'm going to talk about next reminds me so much of Madonna turned fembot, like Madonna of the late 80s, early 90s. This is Divine or Divine, and this is the Le Parfum Intense version. This is one of the most stunning fragrances that I have tried this year in like a sleeper hit. I nearly passed on this because the bottle is so crazy looking. I mean, look at these pointy boobies, and it's got the big old booty on it. This fragrance smells how the fluid looks. It smells golden, it smells ambery. Now, if you look at the notes on the site, it talks about this being a solar fragrance as well, and there being lily and frangipani or frangipani. I like to say frangipani. People say frangipani. Frangipani. I would not be able to pick out any of those distinct florals except to say that this does have a warm floral nature that hovers. And the reason that I say that is because sometimes those sorts of tropical floral notes can really add density to a fragrance and like weigh it down. I feel like this fragrance remains light and airy while being warm and enveloping and uber sexy and feminine. I feel like the floral aspects in this fragrance are airy, even though the fragrance has a lot of warmth and comfort to it and is super duper highly alluring and feminine. This is the kind of fragrance that when you spray it, don't stick your nose in it. It smells really good up close, but it smells even better a couple of feet away, the way that it sort of dissipates out into the air and reaches your nose and does something super special. It makes me think of like the most put together women where their makeup is flawless, their hair is, coiffed to the gods, okay? And they are ready for a night on the town or a dinner with their family or whatever. They put on their finest dress, they've got their elegant high heels on, and they are poised and ready in their glorious femininity. This is supposed to also have salty notes, and so it's supposed to be sort of salty. I just said that. Solar and salty. I don't feel like this comes across salty to me. Although when I think of salty, I also think of like a hint of marine air. And perhaps there is some of that like seaside freshness in the air without smelling like lagoon water. There's nothing sort of like marine life smelling about this at all. I think this is one of the coolest releases of the year. Now, have I smelled the regular, excuse me, I think I have a travel spray of the regular Divine or Divine around here somewhere. I believe I do. And so I can't really compare the two because if I find that stupid thing, I haven't smelled it in a long time, the travel spray. But there is this depth and warmth to this that reminds me a lot of the way this color looks. However, it's not a sweet fragrance. And so when I look at colors like this, I definitely think of amber, and I sometimes think of like honey and the way that honey and or syrupy notes can be, sweet. But I don't feel like this is a sweet fragrance, but I feel like it's warm and inviting and it's beautiful. It's got this light, lovely, clean floral nature to it. I feel like the florals hover above the ambery aspects of this. And it's one that is hard to describe. You've just got to try it out. Again, this is the intense version, and I have zero regrets about getting the big bottle. And I feel like I want to break out into some Madonna songs. I'm going to dress you up in my love, in my love. Papa, don't preach. I'm in trouble deep. I made up my mind and I'm keeping my baby. I'm gonna keep my baby. Yeah. What's your favorite Madonna song? My sister was obsessed with Madonna when we were kids, and she would dress like her and put on all of the jewelry and the outfits and stuff, and it was pretty hilarious. Remember, she had like lace gloves? So Michael Jackson was known for his one glittery glove, and she had the lace gloves. And it was considered like so risque at the time. If we only knew in the 80s that today we would be hearing some of the Cardi B songs and those kinds of lyrics, no one would complain about the Madonna music. No one. Let us move on. I feel like I'm cheating a little bit with the next one because I have the original version of this, or the non-extrait version, I guess is a better way to put it. This is Amouage Honor 43. So I had the original Honor and ended up selling that. I believe it sold from my Mercari listings. And I wanted to try this out. So I kept the original Honor and then ordered this. And when it came, it's so similar to the original Honor that I wanted to keep this one because it is deeper and a little bit like the notes in this feel a little bit more pronounced and have a little bit more bass to them than they do in the regular Honor, which is gorgeous. I mean, that original Honor is like the ultimate bridal fragrance. I also talk about Xerjoff Accento Overdose as being a beautiful bridal fragrance, but if you're into sort of a purely floral aesthetic, like a springtime kind of bride, Honor, you can't beat the regular Honor and this one, Honor 43. So this has a little bit more bass to it, and it's a little bit more sort of luscious and has a little bit more depth, which is why I kept it over the original Honor. This has the trifecta of jasmine and tuberose and gardenia as some of the key notes. And I want to look over here at some of the other notes just so I don't leave things out. By the way, it has a pepper note that other people pick up more prominently. I can't say that the pepper is a standout note for me at all. And in the base, there are some interesting notes: vetiver, frankincense, amber, opoponax, and leather. And so, really, none of those notes stand out for me, except that the base has it's got a lot of junk in its trunk. This one, it feels a little bit like spa oils in the base, and I don't know how else to describe that. It just has like a thickness to it that the original one doesn't. The original one is a little bit more like airy and wispy than this one is, but the florals in here are life. Okay, just pure life. It is such an intoxicating combination of white florals. I mean, if you're a white floral lover, this is a must try. It's strong. Well, the projection I would say is moderate, whereas the original Honor really did fill a room for a while anyway. This one is more moderate in projection. This is an extrait de parfum, which usually, folks, just means that the oil concentrations in the fragrance are higher than the like an eau de parfum concentration. It does not mean that it is louder. So a lot of people mistake extrait for being louder and stronger, and that's not necessarily the case. That said, this is a nicely projecting, but not overly projecting fragrance. It's not an intrusive fragrance, and it does have some beautiful longevity. And the bottle, hello, Amouage just does these bottles right. I got my eye on that dang Guidance 46. Does anybody know where it's on sale? Because I don't think I can bring myself to pay over $500 for a single bottle of fragrance, but I really do want Guidance 46. But for this year, this is the best buy, and the regular Honor, I believe, has found a happy new home. And it deserves to be happy. It deserves to be happy. It was me, it wasn't you. Godspeed. I have raved and raved about this next fragrance at the top of the year when I first bought it, and I raved about it again. I believe it was in the video where I talked about underrated houses that deserved a little bit more attention and my top pick from those houses. And this is from LM Parfums, and it is Sensual Orchid. This is also an extrait de parfum, and I talked about this as being like a fragrance that makes my eyes roll in the back of my head and my toes curl. It's so dang good. So if I didn't say it already, I'm at the part of the video where I'm on my last two fragrances, and if you've heard this before, please don't feel like you need to stick around, although I thank you if you do. And it's largely a floral and vanilla fragrance, and the vanilla in here is so sweet and decadent combined with that beautiful orchid note. And I really don't want to go look up the notes, so I will just tell you that this smells as if cotton candy were florals. Like if you could transform the joy that cotton candy brings, the sweetness and airiness and the beautiful color of it, if you could transform that into floral form, and the florals would have the same sort of pink happiness that cotton candy brings. This fragrance is that in a mature way because there are other fragrances that give you that cotton candy-esque sort of pinkness and they feel a little bit more on the youthful side. This is more, I wouldn't call it like a mature smelling fragrance, but it's this didn't come to play. This came to win. It smells like sweet gum also, like the powdery aspects that come in sweet gum. When you open it up, the paper and it's on there and you get that combined with it, like I said, if cotton candy could be like a dense, and I'll add the word dense, dense perfume form with this deep, delicious, fantastic, very happy smelling vanilla. This is perfection in a bottle to me. Sensual orchid. Sensual orchid. Sexual chocolate. I had to get that in there. Sorry. If you don't know the reference, look it up. Sexual chocolate. There are comedy skits done on that, and it's meant to be funny. All right. And then you've also heard me talk ad nauseum about this next fragrance. I just can't get enough of it. It is divinely simple and yet glorious at the same time. Okay. So this isn't complex, but it is a compelling fragrance for me that captures my heart and has kept my attention through the months since I purchased it. From Francesca dell'Oro, this is Vanille 12 or midday or noon. Veronica still has not learned how to say the fragrance properly, but it's just vanille and then literally like the timestamp of 12 noon. The fragrance has pear and apple. So there's this bright, happy, sweet fruitiness at the top, not in the berry direction, not in the traditionally fruity ways. Okay. This is a bright, happy fruitiness, like a sweetness almost that's very mellow. It is a mellow, mellow sweetness in here. It's not super duper pronounced. And the fragrance is primarily a vanilla fragrance. It is a sweet vanilla in the sense that there are those fruit notes and also some caramel in the base. There's macaron as a note. Do you say macaron or macaroons or macaron? I say macaron. Potato, potato, tomato, tomato. I adore this. I adore this. It's super duper lovely as an everyday, very wearable vanilla with some intrigue added from those kind of gourmandy notes that I described and those other fruity notes. And the pear in particular is lovely. Pear, as I mentioned in a previous video, is my favorite fruit note by far. So this to me, if you like gentle fluidity gold, and you think about gentle fluidity gold as being maybe like a fall or winter time perfect vanilla that you can wear anywhere, and you remove maybe some of the spiciness and that sort of piney thing that you get from the juniper berry in gentle fluidity gold, and instead you substitute those for maybe some more sweeter, slightly desserty notes and that bright, happy, fresh fruit salad smell, you might have a sense of what this smells like. This is delicate. This is definitely not imposing at all. No one will be offended by this fragrance. There's nothing rude about it except this ugly cap on this bottle. It's super wearable, super friendly, super lovable. This is like the miscongeniality of vanilla fragrances, but it ain't just a pretty face, okay? This one has something to say when it's in the pageant and you ask it, what do you think needs to change in the world? This one is not just going to say, I want world peace. This one is going to actually give a substantive response because it's intelligent. Like it prepared for the questions. When you ask it what it wants to be when it grows up, it's not going to say something frivolous. It's going to tell you it wants to be a scientist or some other heavily contributing profession to society. This one, this is a smart, intelligent person in a bottle or something. What the hell am I talking about? It's got some substance, is what I'm trying to say. Vanille 12. Definitely try it out. I will link all of these below for those of you that are interested. So those are my, did I miss anybody? Those are my top 10 purchases of this year, 2024. Don't forget to tell us about your favorite purchase of the year or the fragrance that you have enjoyed testing the most if you haven't purchased any, which is fine too. You don't need to be purchasing fragrances all day, every day, like some of us crazy people out here. Let me know your thoughts on these selections and stay tuned for the other top 10 videos at the end of the year here. Thanks so much for hanging this long. Y'all take care. See you in the next one.